Welcome, everybody. Well, by damn, we made it. It's Friday. Another week in the books. Time to have a good time. Family and friends. Don't have too much fun, however. And the moment we've all been waiting for. The beginning of the St. Michael podcast, episode 1. Very anticipated. First, I want to thank everybody for the blessings that y'all have given me this far with the likes, the subscriptions. There's only going to be more. The more that grows, the more this podcast will grow. Got a lot of things in the making. Got a studio set up in the making. It's going to be great. I got a lot of high hopes. Again, this isn't just something that I put myself on. This is something that God put me on. God put me down this path. There's not enough people that speak on the things that we're going to be talking about. Not enough of it. So, we're going to get started with what made me get started in this life, down this journey. First and foremost, I was born and raised in Odessa, Texas. Shout out to all my family and friends still out there. When I was growing up, I wasn't the best of kids. I was definitely a handful from my mother, and God bless her soul. She passed away a few years ago from COVID and lung cancer. So I want to talk about where I came from on that sense. Wasn't the best of kids. I did a lot of things that, even illegal things. Like I said, I wasn't what they expect out of a law enforcement officer. With the things that I was around, we didn't have the most money. So I did what a lot of people that don't have a lot of money do. There was money that was made in some different kind of ways. I got creative, I'll say that much. I definitely was around a lot of narcotics as a child. And all of these things that I was around, the drugs, the gangs, a little bit of everything else, eventually led me to military. I wanted to find a way out. There's a quick and easy way out. I was talented at sports all throughout my childhood, including high school. I did really well. I was good at football, decent at baseball. And so we tried to go about it that route. However, I did get in trouble with the law. And I ended up doing a little bit of youth jail time, I guess you would say. So I was incarcerated in that sense. So that made the athletic side of it go away. Well, now I still needed a way out. So what did I do? Joined the military. When Ed got back into high school, finished it up, joined the military. Went to the military, got out, didn't really know what else to do. Ended up getting in touch with the VA career job rep. And I wanted to know, what is it that was a good transition from my job in the military to what I can do out here so I can be successful. I wanted to set myself up for success. So I ended up, that's whenever the VA rep gave me a paper that Gave me a bunch of different law enforcement agencies. So, well, I never thought about that. So what did I do? I went ahead and I had an option. I could either get in with one of the bigger agencies and let them put me through the academy, or I could put myself through an academy, through a college. So what I did was I went ahead and put myself through a college academy. I think it took about 10 months, nights. I had, me and my wife had my oldest child at the time. While in the academy, I ended up having my second child by around the time that I graduated, roughly. So I had kids. I had mouths to feed, which was another big reason why I wanted to get into it. Plus, I knew, well, there's insurance, stability, job stability. Crime don't ever stop. It's been going on forever. So, sounds like a good idea. I'll go ahead and do this law enforcement thing for a while. Got involved with it. Graduated the academy. I was top of my class. Second highest. Not the first. My buddy that was first is watching this video. However, I was what you would say. I was good. I was very knowledgeable. I put a lot into it. I was interested in it. I cared about the community. I wanted to make things better. I wanted to make the world a better place. What better to do it than as a police officer, right? So I went ahead, got involved with that. And by the time I finished, I was trying to find jobs even before I got out of the academy, because all they would tell us is, you know, it's kind of difficult. It's difficult to find one right away, because a lot of people at that time where law enforcement wasn't really looking for rookies a whole lot. Around this time, I think I was 23 or 24 during this time. So put myself through it, got out, found an agency that was on the outskirts of Houston. It's kind of a small town. Got involved with that, put in an application. I said, well, we're gonna have you work in the jail probably starting out, which that's not really the way I wanted to go, because I knew, I don't know, this law enforcement, they think about, they tell you, you know, they want you to start in the jail. A lot of the people will tell you, oh yeah, it's a good idea, but of course you want to go out there and you want to kick some ass, you know, in the uniform on the streets. You think you're ready, gung-ho, you just got out the academy, right? So it was a job. I needed the money at the time. I think I was working at I think I was working like a sandwich place or something. I was working like I think Jimmy John's at the time. So took the job. Next thing you know, they said, well, hey, just wanted to let you know, after they gave me the job, that first and foremost, I had to fill out this thing that was like, this packet was like 30 pages worth of shit that I had to fill out about my entire life. Anything that I've ever been in trouble for, anything that, where I've lived, all the addresses I've lived, all the social media I had, every family member that's immediate, every family member I've lived with, every person I've ever lived with, wanted all of their information. So I had to gather all of this information, and I had to get it turned in by like 3 days. Okay, so that was kind of a pain in the ass, I'm not gonna lie. Got that put in, then they offered me the job. Took the job, so well, I'm gonna be working in the jail, but you know what, it beats the hell out of making sandwiches, making more money, and I'm doing something that somewhat applies to what I went to the academy for, so we'll take this little dub. Well, they ended up giving me the street job, patrol deputy. That's what I was. I was working for a sheriff's office. So, okay, they're gonna start me on FTO. Went and shot past Passed the shooting qualification. Did good on that. And I was out on the street. I was on training. Training went well. First couple phases went well. Next thing you know, I'm riding with this cat, and I figured it would be good. I mean, I'm not big on the racism thing, but they say about 95% white dudes that worked at this department. My last phase, I was with another Mexican. He was the only Mexican other than me, so I was thinking in my head, oh shit, got this one in the bag. I did good on the other ones. Succeeded, passed, everything was great. Well, I rode with this guy, and there was some things that went on with that. I mean, he was it's very critical on every little thing that I did, which when you're super critical, I got a little bit nervous. The first one, I mean, I think we were on our way to a wreck. It just got done raining. I ended up getting the damn unit stuck. This guy already, he already didn't seem to care for me for whatever reason. But yeah, I ended up getting stuck in the median on I-10 here in Texas, trying to get to this car accident that happened. It wasn't even a serious car accident, but I was nervous. I was trying to haul ass to that car accident. Got stuck. So, which me and my wife and kids at the time, we lived out in Katy. So this guy was just he did not like me at all at this point. He was saying stuff to me. I'm somebody, I don't know how to bite my tongue, so I'm sitting here trying to say stuff back. I'm sitting here trying to explain what happened. And next thing you know, as we're driving off, he just keeps going on and on and on. And I finally told him, hey man, like, why don't you ease up off me a little bit? I said it with that, not with those words, but I said it like, And so next thing you know, he gets out that pen and docks me on it for saying something back. So what kind of shit is that? So we're driving. Again, it's nighttime. We're on nights. Still not going good. Got about a month with this cat, and I think we're about 2 weeks in, and it just seemed like he was the things he was asking me is things that was like that he was docking me on and questioning me on was things that was like he didn't even know the answers to that. I did this job for several years. I still, off the top of my head, could not answer the shit that this guy was asking me, that he expected me to know as a rookie. Never been a cop in my life, but was docking me because I didn't know this shit, and I never was given any kind of hey, learn this tonight, go home, study this, learn it tonight. Didn't get any of that. It was just the expectation to know it. So I backtalked because, like I said, I've always been outspoken. I'm always going to speak my mind. I got a limit, like anybody else. Maybe a little bit less than most people, but So he didn't like that I would say something back. Next thing you know, we're getting to the point of we're cussing at each other during our shift while we're driving, and it's getting bad. So we ended up going to a traffic stop at night. I pulled this guy over, and he ended up having felony warrants, had a bunch of narcotics in the back, had a gun in the back. I spotted all that. Mind you, shined my flashlight right at it. The guy said, no, hold on a second. I said, okay. I said, but you see that, right? He's got a gun in the back. Hold on a second, okay? So we get back in the car. Of course, made the arrested the guy, put him in jail. When we get back, he's saying, well, I'm gonna have to dock you on several things on that. I'm sitting in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, fuck yeah, I just, this one thing that just made me pass FTO. FTO is field training, by the way. I just passed this shit, I'm gonna be out on my own by next week. Nah, not at all. He said, I'm gonna dock you on all these things. Shit, what are you gonna dock me on? Well, you didn't see the gun, that's dangerous, officer safety, and officer safety is huge, by the way. they get you on officer safety, they might fire you for that. I said, officer safety? I said, I spotted the gun before you did. No, you didn't. You didn't say anything about it. I said, I tried to tell you, but you talked over me and told me not to say anything. And you said just a second. He wasn't having it, so he docked me on it. Well, finally, I decide. He docked me on that. He docked me on searching. Said that I didn't search the vehicle and that he's the one that found the narcotics. And I didn't find it. I mean, the guy, he ended up having like a bunch of like cocaine, meth, all kinds of shit in that car. But he said, yeah, he docked me on that. And I said, well, you didn't find any of that shit. I did. Like, why not just give me my props instead? And at least don't screw me. At least don't say that I didn't find it and that I just wasn't looking for it. Well, no, he worded it like that. So I go in and now I'm talking to I decided to take it upon myself to talk to the lieutenant, because I'm like, this clearly ain't working. Like, he's clearly gonna fail me on this shit, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk to somebody about getting put with somebody else. Well, the lieutenant already said, I'm not gonna put you with anybody else. You're gonna have to ride it out with him. So this fucker, he's gonna fail me, man. Like, there's not a chance in hell this guy's gonna pass me on this. So I'm somebody, I get to the point of where I know, like, this is pointless. I'm just wasting my own time. That makes it even, for me, that makes it even the more where whatever it is that you're gonna talk, whatever kind of shit you're gonna talk to me, which, like I'd said before, he'd already ran his mouth to me just about every day since I got with the guy. Here we are on week 3 out of the 4-week month. So I know I'm gonna fail, and the guy is shit talking. I mean, he even said it himself at that point. I'm not gonna pass you. Okay, so I'm gonna be left without a job, and I'm still riding with this guy. I went ahead and threw it out. You know, we went ahead and just started. We started cussing each other out in the vehicle and everything. And next thing you know, I'm getting called by the lieutenant again. He calls me in there and says, well, we're gonna give you an ultimatum. You can either resign or we're gonna have to terminate you. Which, again, at this point, I didn't learn anything about this in the academy. Remember, I thought whatever law enforcement agency I go to, I'm gonna be there for life. Like, I'm gonna ride it out into the sunset. So all this like ultimatum shit, I didn't know anything about that. So, well, we're gonna give you an ultimatum to either resign or get fired. And it's gonna go on your file. At the time, they had these things called F5s. An F5, for my military guys out there, it's like a DD-214 for each place you went. It says like why you got released, if you resigned. They had honorable, dishonorable, or general for your discharges. And I said, well, I mean, if I resign, is it going to be honorable? I said, oh yeah, it's going to be honorable. It's that, you know, you're going to be fine. We just can't have you here. Okay. So I went ahead and resigned, and I put in applications for other departments in the same area. Well, the more I noticed I was getting rejected by these departments. So, well, shit, I don't understand why I'm getting rejected by these departments. It doesn't make any sense. I didn't do anything wrong. I even says I got an honorable discharge from the last one. Well, no. What they do is you go in, yeah, they'll give you your discharge, but then they go and write shit about you inside of your file that gets passed on for every agency that you apply at. And what I didn't know is evidently they can put anything and everything that they want. They can even make shit up. Now, they're not supposed to do that, but I've had this happen. I've had it happen in my own file. God's a witness. So I was struggling with that. I finally found one there was another one I went and worked. This time I worked in a jail. So when I worked in the jail, this department that I'm talking about, again, the outskirts of Houston, for another sheriff's office. So, well, it's a fresh start. Jail's not gonna be bad. I can get some more knowledge in there. And it did. It worked wonders for my law enforcement career. Because it helps you learn how to talk to certain people. A lot of your frequent flyers that go to jail all the time, and you know, you talk to them in there, and when they know you in there, they're gonna know you on the street. Whenever it comes down to you dealing with them on the street, because a lot of times it is the same ones that you deal with, because they're in and out of jail all the time. Except outside, they got weapons. Inside, they don't. That's pretty much the only difference. So, you know, they all respected me. I've always been one. I show every man his respect. I've never really been disrespected too much in my life. I had no problems from any part of the community standpoint. From any department that I worked at, the community was great. I loved working with the community. Even my frequent flyers that were always in trouble, they still respected me. They even dropped the dime, gave me some information on things with knowing that I'm not going to give them up. They entrusted that into me, that they could say things to me about what was going on the streets, where I could find things on the streets, and I wouldn't have to pay them. I wouldn't have to give them anything. It was just out of respect. That's the kind of rapport that I had, and that's the kind of things that a lot of officers, they're thirsty for that. They're thirsty for that kind of knowledge, that kind of respect. A lot of them don't get it. They think that you're gonna get that out of being an enforcer and just treating people like shit, and that is not how it works. I never treated anybody like that. So to that, whenever I was in the jail, I liked to play music. Everybody was able to have speakers. All the jailers were able to have speakers. So what I would do is I would play music. And that's how I would control my tank, my pod. I'd play music for them. Y'all behave. Y'all do what you're supposed to do. I'll let y'all pick a song for whenever it's lights out. And they knew it. I did it every time. I had no problems. So I'd play music. I made the decision to do it for them before lights out one time. And, you know, there was some inmates that were dancing, you know, in the pod, and they saw that on camera. And they said, well, hey, we need you to turn that speaker off. They called the phone. I said, I'm not, nobody's doing anything wrong. I said, okay, I'll turn it off. That pissed off everybody in my pod, because that meant there was no music. So they were pissed. And I'm the only guy in uniform there, so they were pissed at me. So what do? They got crazy just a little bit, but they ended up simmering down, whatever. So next thing you know, they go ahead and call me again. After everybody calmed down, they say, hey, we asked you to turn that speaker off. I said, the speaker's been off. Do you not see everybody pissed off in here? They said, okay, well, we're going to come down there and we're going to get that speaker. I said, then you better go and take everybody else's speaker as well. You better take every jailer, deputy speaker that's in here. You better go take their speaker too, because they all got them. Y'all are making a big deal because I'm playing music for some inmates who are waiting for trial. They are not even convicted yet. They are accused right now. Still innocent. Innocent till proven guilty. Y'all want me to turn, like, you got a big deal about them listening to music? Like, what's the shit? Some of these pods got guys doing all kinds of drugs and everything else going on in them pods, like tattoos. Like, none of my guys are even doing that, but y'all are making a big deal about music. Okay. So anyways, they go, and when I went to the bathroom, they went and decided to take the speaker. And one of the older inmates, one of the OGs that was in my pod, came and said, well, hey, they took your speaker. They came in here whenever they were waiting for you to go to the bathroom, and they came in and took it. I said, yeah, I see that. I said, hold on a second. So I called up there. I said, well, he's got 15 minutes to bring my fucking speaker back, or I'm going to go take it back and I'm going to walk my ass out of here. So, took the speaker. Now, I marched down there. I said, well, I'm out. So, all the inmates in there giving me dabs. Man, we love you. You the real OG. Everything else is that. Man, it was cool. It's cool knowing you guys, man. I hope y'all make smarter decisions. Whenever y'all get out of here, I'll be seeing y'all around. All right, man. All right, So I go down there to the command center. That's where the lieutenants and all the brass are at. So I go down there and I took the speaker. So what are you doing? I said, no, I told you what I was gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do. Here's my radio. Here's my badge. Here's everything. I'm out. I'll find another job. Well, the sergeants start chasing me to the door. Hey, man, don't do this. Don't do this to your career. I said, I'm not doing anything to my career. I said, this is my resignation. I said, I'm not gonna have somebody treat me anything less than a man. So I left. Got called the next day by the captain, who, by the way, had billboards all over the damn place over here about how he was cheating on his wife, infidelity, and he definitely treated a lot of the inmates, and definitely, in my opinion, treated a lot of the inmates like shit. Treated a lot of the deputies and jailers like shit that were under him. I didn't care for him whatsoever. So, however, I was also informed that he's buddies with the sheriff, so he's able to keep his job, regardless of the bad publicity with the billboards that his wife went and put all around town, or one billboard, or not, however many billboards. There was definitely a billboard. So, regardless of the bad publicity, the guy, in my opinion, did a shitty job of doing his job, did a shitty job of being a leader, in my opinion, and also handled the inmates terribly, in my opinion. That guy always gets to keep his jobs, got all the job security in the world. All right. So he's the one that calls me the following day and says, hey, don't come in. I said, you thought I was going to come back? I said, I already gave y'all my resignation. I'd already had an application at another department that was fixing to take me as an actual police officer. It was a city police. So I go there. Now I'm a city cop. Well, this is a touchy one because a lot of things happened at this one as well. First, I go in and, I'm not being talked to about my career or anything like that. I'm being talked to about the changes that he's wanting to make during the interview, and don't get too friendly with a lot of the officers that are here because there's a good chance in a couple months they're not going to be here anymore. So perception that I'm getting at this point is he's a total, okay, there's a lot of shitbag officers here. I mean, that's the way that it was portrayed to me, in my opinion. So I said, okay, so there must be a lot of corruption over here or something. He said, anybody says anything negative about me, you come and tell me. Okay. Deal. Got told this on more than one occasion. So I start talking to these other officers, riding with them. I'm on FTO, and they're talking to me about how things used to be, and some of the write-ups that they'd already been getting while there. Which, by the way, the jailer job that I got, speaking of write-ups, all they gave me was a write-up for not having hair clippers, for losing the hair clippers, inmate hair clippers. I never got told anything about that, but it's on my file that I got a write-up for losing inmate hair clippers. I finally nutted up on that one and decided to fight it in court on the whole discharge because they tried to give me a dishonorable. I said, I'm not going out with a dishonorable because that's going to make it pretty much impossible for me to be able to get another job as a cop. So I said, all right. Challenged it. Well, it ended up being me and the old captain. I guess the lieutenant didn't show up to my case. So I beat him. He knew really nothing. Couldn't even name the policy that said that they're not allowed to have speakers. Couldn't even say that there was a policy, because there wasn't one. And you can't say that one guy can't have a speaker, but everybody else can. So I won. Technically, I could get rehired there today if I wanted to. That's why you always challenge any little thing. Anything, any write-up, anything that you get, always challenge it. Because even if you fucked up, there's still a way that you can beat that. Because if there's any kind of favoritism going on, you're gonna beat that. There's no exceptions to rules. Policy is policy. If it's your policy, then it needs to be enforced across the board. So always remember that, because you might luck out and get a deal like I did. I won, which made it where I was able to go to the city, be a city police officer at the next place. And which brings me back to that. So the whole time I was there, I kept getting questions. Has anybody said anything about me? You heard anything? I'm like, man, what kind of shit is this? Well, most people don't like their boss. Across the board, not just law enforcement. Any job that involves you working for somebody else, you probably don't like your boss 9 times out of 10. Some people luck out. They like their boss. They get along with them. They go have drinks with them and shit. And that's great. But, I'm not fixing in my mind, I'm like, I haven't seen any of these guys do anything wrong. I learned a lot. I'm still friends with 3 of them, including my sergeant. Hell, my sergeant lives like 2 doors down from me now. I'm not fixing to do these people wrong. That's not right. Just because you want to know if somebody doesn't like you. Like, who the fuck do you think you are? And then whenever I'm there, start getting these calls that we're going to more and more. He brought in his entire staff. He's a guy that came from Harris County. He brought in his entire staff. People that he knew, people he was comfortable with. Shit can the old ones, I guess. I mean, don't know. The people that were there came in with me, so I guess they either got fired or asked to quit. They got the ultimatum to resign, I guess you could say. And so it was all his people. It's people he knew. You know. Next thing you know, there's I'm hearing stories from all of my partners and buddies about how they're going to these calls and this lieutenant's showing up with no vest on and telling them what to do, what decisions to be made, removing the officer's discretion on arrests and enforcing them and telling them to arrest people, from what I was told. So I didn't know what was going on with all that. At this point, I was just trying to put my head down. Once again, I already knew this was going to be short-lived. Which law enforcement, you would think, like I said, when I got into this, job security, right? Job security. So I'm sitting here thinking that maybe it was over-exaggerated. Maybe it's just something that perceived this way. Well, one day I get a call to a business. It was a mechanic shop, and they said, they said they got the guy. They got him on camera. That, and what they did was that they went and took a picture of a homeless guy walking on the side of the road and said he's the one that broke into our shop, and then showed me video footage of a guy who was wearing all designer clothes. A white guy wearing all designer clothes. He just so happened to have blonde hair just like the homeless guy, and said that's him. So they went and took a picture of the guy on the side of the road and submitted that with evidence and showed me the video footage, and I said that's not the same guy. Well, here comes Mr. No Vest, decides to pull up and say, well, no, we need to find this guy and go arrest him. Fuck you, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. I'm not putting my career, my integrity, my soul really on the line, because I'm not fixing to put somebody behind bars that doesn't need to be put behind bars. No, we need to arrest this guy. I said, well, you better get somebody else to fucking do it. I ain't doing it. I said, because that footage that I'm looking at is not the same guy as the homeless guy that they went and took a picture of him on the side of the road. And it's going to be easy to find the son of a bitch, because he's right there. He's on the same street every day, all day. He doesn't have anywhere else to go. He doesn't ever cause anybody problems. I've talked to him before. Hell, I even bought the guy a Coke before. Well, no, we're gonna get him off the street. We need to close this case. Well, like I said, I'm not doing it. After that point, it got a little bit difficult. That's whenever people started looking, not my fellow officers. Like I said, was boys with them then. I'm boys with them now. Now I'm being looked at by the admin and the chief in a different light. I don't know if this was God, but my wife ended up having to go to the hospital while she was pregnant with my son, my youngest child. We had some, she was having some pains and difficulties during her pregnancy, and we learned while in there that it was life-threatening. So I needed to tend to my wife. I needed to be there with my children, my daughters. And so I called him and I said, hey, I'm going to be gone it's going to be a little bit until I come back. I gave him an email, sent that, after about a week, I realized I still need to be here, and things aren't really going that great at work. On top of that, I don't know how long I'm going to have to be here to tend to my wife and my children. So I'll just go ahead and put in a resignation. It's help everybody out. It's a good thing for the department. They can go ahead and fill my slot since I don't know how long I'm going to be out. So I put in my resignation. I said, I gave everybody my apologies. I said thank you for the opportunity. And the guy goes and gives me a general discharge for not putting in a 2 weeks notice. So I wasn't even able to go and I wasn't even able to go and apply at other places for a while. I mean, I could apply, but every place I was going to, I was having to explain this shit on what happened. Of course, they don't believe it because they've already heard every story in the book. And when you're just an applicant, which is what I said in the last video, it all goes back to the hiring process. Who these guys decide they want to hire. I couldn't get a job because of that. Because it looks like I'm what they call a gypsy cop. Somebody that hops around a lot. Which, my thing is, I'm not in the military. I think if you're a police officer and you're being done, you feel like you could do better somewhere else to better your career and advancement, or if you don't like whatever's going on at your work, I feel like if you want to resign, you should be able to resign, and that's fair. That's fine. It's a job at the end of the day, and you're getting paid for that job. You're not in the military. However, it's not like that. I cannot, it's not like I quit Verizon Wireless and I can go work at AT&T or T-Mobile with the knowledge that I know, because I was trained on all of these devices at Verizon. So, you would think that's how it should work, but that's not how it works. Instead, they crucify your ass. That's what they do. So, from that point forward, I put in more applications. And I didn't challenge that one. I didn't take that one to court. I should have, because he later on ended up screwing over all of my friends at that department. My opinion is that he screwed them over. That's my opinion. Because they all ended up without jobs. They all got terminated for violations that a lot of police officers do on a daily basis. They were, like I said, they were good police officers, and they all got shit canned. So, from that point, I was already past my 30 days in being able to take it to court and challenge my general discharge. So, I thought about it. I said, well, what's the next best thing? Well, from that point forward, we all got together and formed a coalition. Coalition, and meaning group of guys that got done wrong. That's what I mean by coalition. It's all got done wrong and said, hey, this is wrong. We need to do something about this in court legally, because we need to help out other officers down the line that are going to work for this guy. So that's what we did. And I don't know if that had anything to do with him not being chief anymore, but I know he's no longer the chief over there. I think in my opinion, it had a lot to do with it. In my opinion, I would say. I mean, it took about 2 years later, because that's the way our system works. So who knows the lives that got totally demolished in that span of 2 years. Because, I mean, if you treat your officers like garbage, the odds are you probably treat the public like garbage too, in my opinion. And that's the way it's worked. forever. So we won that one too, pretty much. Take the moral victory. Take the moral high ground, because also after that happened, that still made it possible to where I was able to still get hired on. It did the same thing as it would have done as if I beat my case to get it to challenge my F5 hearing from a general discharge to an honorable. It ended up doing the same thing, because that made public news, and it's on several articles on what happened. So now they were able to go back and see, what ended up happening and how many officers ended up getting screwed over while they were there. So it brought validation to what I was saying, whenever I was in my interviews and things like that. So it opened the doors back up for me. Could have sued, because the amount of time that I had to go without a job, but it is what it is. God pays homage to all of his servants. So after that, I went to, that's when I ended up in Harris County. Harris County was great. Great training. However, wasn't big on the 8-hour shifts. Working nights, 8-hour shifts, shitty days off. Monday and Tuesday, it's rough on the family. It's rough on the kids and everything else. It does bring a lot of, plus the things that I saw out there, it brings a lot of evil into the household. So the issue that I had there was I would get a call to, and this is just, I'm not saying this is all of them, because there's some really good cops in Harris County. But my experience was I would get a call, such as a drive-by, to be specific. I don't know. And the people that are supposed to be my partners in my jurisdiction, my area, a lot of them would lollygag getting to the drive-by. I'm not saying what department this is, but I'm saying that this is something that I observed while I was there. And this is just my opinion. My opinion is that they were lollygagging to get to the call, to dangerous calls, which I'm so against that, if that's the case. And the reason I say I believe that that's what they were doing is because how do I get there first whenever you're not at a call and I'm driving from the complete opposite side of town? And I even drove by and observed you at a gas station getting snacks on my way to the call when I had my red and blues on. I don't know. It's kind of weird. So anyways, I'm just saying, it's just an opinion. I'm not saying it's fact. I'm not saying that's how all the police are over there. Not saying any of that. However, that's not the way that I do my policing. And I'm firmly against that. To the point I talked to a supervisor about it, because I felt like that's something that needed to be dealt with. Some kind of disciplinary to prevent it from happening, and nothing happened. So ended up having some issues going on. My dad had some issues at the time anyway, so I ended up going and checking out of that one, if you know what I mean. Went ahead and checked out, because my dad had My dad had some medical issues going on. I had to take care of him. So I resigned from that. Got that honorable discharge. Nothing had to be challenged. That's what I'm saying, though. It's pros and cons. I would definitely say the cons outweigh the pros. If I could do it all over again, I did meet some decent, good people that I worked with. But for the most part, I met more shitty people that were cops that you can't tell anything to because they could possibly screw you over with it. It was not like the military. I definitely made more friends when I was in the military versus law enforcement. And I really don't understand why the career advisor for the VA decided to tell me that that's the closest thing to what I did in the military, because I did not get the same out of that. I'd say, that's all. That's my story of law enforcement. But pros, we'll go with pros and cons. I'd say insurance is a pro. Insurance is great. Medical insurance, it was awesome. Pretty much everything covered, just about free, if it wasn't completely free. You get to wear a gun and a badge. Like I said, every boy as a child wanted to have that gun and badge whenever he was younger. And the other thing would be the food. A lot of places are going to try to offer you free food. You're not supposed to take it, but I don't know very many officers that don't take it whenever it's offered. And everybody wants to be a leader. Everybody wants to be a role model. You would think that's a good job for that. And it is. It's a good role model for your children. Pretty much shows them, dad's not doing illegal shit. That's always good. Now we go to the cons. As you heard from all of my departments that I worked at, work stability it's almost non-existent. It can be stripped from you immediately. And you may or may not find another job. You never know when you are or you aren't. You are expected to be a yes man in law enforcement. They don't want to know your way of doing it. If you know a better way of getting the same job done, a lot of departments these days don't care. They want you to do it their way. I personally think that's bullshit. Because if somebody has either a safer way of doing it, to where maybe less officers will get killed, then I think it needs to be looked at. If somebody has a easier way of doing it, saves time, I think should be looked at, should be considered. But no, it's not the way it works 9 times out of 10. And then the other thing is the good old boy system, is what they call it. Where, Billy Bob, down the road is my boy. Yeah, he got in trouble for violating people's rights, doing racist shit, stealing money. But you know what? Hey, he didn't lose his license. Let's go ahead and get him a job over here so I can be his sergeant. So I can be, his chief or sheriff, whatever. So I can look out for him. Make sure he doesn't do anything wrong anymore. Fuck all those guys that are trying to apply for jobs that, they got in a little bit of, they got in some trouble that I know they got screwed over at their last department. Good cops. Fuck those guys. I'm going to give him a shot. I know he can come over here and do a job. And all the things that I did, I never once got in trouble for violating anybody's rights, saying something out of pocket, or stealing. My integrity was never at any point in time challenged as a peace officer. Now, I've done wrong in my life. I'm not saying that. But while wearing the gun and the badge during my shift, no. I'm not perfect. I'm a sinner by heart. Most definitely. I'm a God-fearing man. I'm not a godly man. And what that means is I'm somebody that knows how to admit that I am a sinner and that I've been a sinner and I'll always be a sinner, because that's the world that God created and put us in. It's not our job to try to be Jesus Christ. It's our job to come to God for forgiveness against these things that he knows are going to be a challenge, because there's nothing that God can't do. Another con I would say is a lot of people are disgusted by you. There's not a lot of people that like police officers. A lot of times you're the guy that arrested them, arrested their dad, their mom, their cousin, their boyfriend, girlfriend, gave them a traffic ticket whenever they just lost their job. Like, yeah, people don't like cops. It's not the 50s, you know. And the last thing I would say is what's really difficult, and it's not on the it's shitty bad apples that made it this way, but a lot of times politicians are not going to side with you, especially in a place like Harris County, in a liberal, it's more of a liberal, on the liberal side, excuse me, they're not going to side with the officer if something ever happens. Lord forbid somebody lose their life. Lord forbid you got to take somebody's life and you get in a shooting. You're going to have to lawyer up with more than one attorney. And they do got these things called unions, which we'll get to that. That's going to be on a whole nother thing, because there's some real weird shit that I'm going to tell y'all about that goes into Freemasonry. Not even supposed to speak on that, but I'm going to let y'all know about it. Like I said, we're here to expose corruption. That's what the fuck we're here to do. That's what we're going to do. So, yeah. And these unions, they're pretty much your legal representation. You pay about like $30 a month. So that comes out of every check. Every check. It's not $30 a month. It's about $30 a check. You already don't make a lot, and it's coming out of your check. You may not pay insurance, but you're going to pay for that attorney. It's for that one time you might need it. You're gonna pay for it. So, that's definitely something we're definitely gonna touch on, those unions. However, the unions are what got me my bailout when I got my discharge challenged and I won and I got it overturned. That the union did, it rose to it for me, and I am somebody, like I said, we'll get into that. It's gonna be the next one. So yeah, I mean, all you guys out there wanting to become cops, these are all things that you need to think of. These are all things you need to think of. If you got kids and a wife and a family, I don't recommend it. Flat out, I don't recommend it. I mean, it almost burned my marriage to the ground when I was a cop. There's just, your attitude's different. Your attitude's, you're around a lot of temptation. You got a lot of things that try to drift you away from your family. But anyways, it's been fun. Y'all have a great weekend. Have a couple drinks for me. Anyways. And God bless. Please like, please subscribe. Got to get them subscriptions up. Like I said, I do have a studio model in the making to get this rolling even deeper, to where I'm not sitting in my truck for an hour doing this stuff. But yeah. God bless y'all, and be safe this weekend. Thank y'all so much for the love. Thank y'all so much for viewing. I really hope that this is good information for y'all. Yeah, I hope y'all are able to utilize this. And even people that don't want to be police officers, I hope y'all utilize this just to have more of an insight of what officers have to go through, and that they're having to go up against really some of the same ones that you're going up against out of the people that are in charge of them. Because that is the case. Not a lot of times it's not officers, it's just, and it's no excuse, because like I said, I am an officer that I know when to tell somebody to get fucked. Because I'm worried more about what God's gonna think versus the money that's not gonna be coming into my pocket if I lose that job. Not every officer thinks that way. You got to remember, a lot of officers are dads, husbands, sole providers. They don't think that way. We're trying to get to the point of where we got officers in there that do think that way. Officers that are willing to say what's wrong and what's right. Remember that. That is one of the end goals here. And we're going to get there. Like I said, y'all pass the word down. Tell all of your friends, your family to start viewing this podcast. I ain't going anywhere. It's just a matter of how quickly we get up there in terms of cool shit that we get going. Pass the word down. Make sure you say like, subscribe. Y'all go ahead and add me on the Instagram. That's going to be Anointed with 2 N's. And that's A, Adam, Nora, Ocean, Ida, Nora, Tom, Edward, David, _ St. Michael. St. Michael's all one word. TikTok is going to be at ST Sam Tom Michael 85. So ST Michael 85. Y'all have a blessed weekend. Have some fun with the family. See y'all next week. God bless.